Hello and welcome to today's webinar, From Chaos to Clarity, Leveling Up Clinical Tracking in Nursing Programs. Today we're going to explore the benefits and opportunities of using a centralized system for tracking clinical learning experiences and program outcomes, and why Odin's partner Trajexis might be a good fit for you on this journey. We're joined today by three nursing and allied health educators. Daisy McQuiston, who serves as Nursing Discipline Coordinator and faculty at Delta College in Michigan, where she supports a large and complex nursing program and has spent more than 2 decades focused on student success, retention, and preparing students for clinical practice. We're also joined by James Foley, the Academic Director for the Associate Degree Nursing Program at North Shore Technical Community College in Louisiana. Dr. Foley's background spans acute care, specialty care, and nursing education, and he is currently leading his program towards initial accreditation in 2027. We're also joined today by Georgia Gray, Manager of Nursing Programs at Trajexis. Georgia brings experience as both a clinical nursing instructor and program administrator in radiologic technology, and she is working directly with and has worked directly with Trajexis in an academic setting, giving her practical perspectives on how programs implement and use clinical tracking systems. Georgia?
Thanks, Brian, and welcome everyone. We're excited to have you with us. So today's discussion is really just about having an open conversation around clinical management, what programs are experiencing on that day to day, and how that's evolving. And hopefully you all take a few perspectives home with you today and back to your own programs as well. So Daisy, I'd love to start with you. Daisy, tell us a little bit about your program and what your clinical tracking looked like before you made a change with Trajexis.
Absolutely. Thanks, Georgia. So, oh, I'm echoing. I'm sorry. I apologize. All right.
Right, let's have you try again. I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and mute yourself and unmute yourself, Daisy, and we'll see if that starts working.
Okay. Is that any better? Okay. I apologize for that. I am so sorry. So thank you. I am, as Brian mentioned, at Delta College in Michigan, and we have both an associate degree program and a practical nurse program. And combined, we have over 300 students enrolled in our program at any given time. That's spread over multiple cohorts and multiple clinical sites all over our mid-Michigan region. And having been at Delta College as a nursing faculty for over 20 years and most recently as the program coordinator, I've really seen the complexity grow with our interaction in the clinical sites and with the students. And we really were struggling with trying to keep track of our paper documentation. Where was it? Who had it? And at times we had items that were missing and trying to locate them. And with different faculty that may come and go, we never really knew like who had the paperwork that we needed to hold on to. So it was a lot of keeping track of everything in Excel spreadsheets and whatever was sent off to the printer and really super thick by the time it came back with lots of different layers that were within it of every assessment. And were any of those missing? And did they get stapled? And it was just a lot of kind of the inconsistency of what the end product was at the end. And we really felt like the amount of time that we were spending tracking down all of those documents and what was missing to make sure that we had all the accurate documentation, it was a lot of our lost time. And our time is too valuable as an educator. We want to spend them with students, not tracking down paperwork. So we felt like it needed to be a better way, and we reached out and uh, looked at what options we had, and that led us to Trajexis.
Great, thanks, Daisy. So when you think about that in the day-to-day for you and your faculty, like when you were compiling all of those papers and trying to collect everything, what did that look like, especially for your faculty? How did that feel for them? What were they struggling with, really, with those inconsistencies?
It was hard when you had a student that we know performed a certain skill in a clinical setting, but yet we didn't have the documentation because it didn't get returned to us. We couldn't really record what was happening. And then when a student wanted to go apply somewhere and show them all the skills that they had done, we didn't have that document with us. And we were like, we have to track it down. And sometimes that tracking takes a lot of work and uh, and a lot of time that we didn't really have.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And as a former educator, just like you, I felt that pain too. It's a lot to keep up with so many students and so many adjuncts and faculty in so many different places. So I'm really glad that, here we are today, hearing your story. So thank you so much for sharing about that. So James, let's switch over to you. So from a program leadership and accreditation perspective, tell us about what your program and what clinical tracking looked like before you started working towards a more organized approach.
I think that our program started in 2023. And to be honest with you, I think Trajexis was a part of it almost since the beginning. The initial director that came in, she was aware of it from a previous job as well. And so it was something she thought to be kind of beneficial as well. But I could talk about my perspective working in leadership roles or for other universities and colleges where I remember being a director for another university where there was so much information that was scattered that we were almost having a little bit of a heart attack when accreditation was getting closer to where's all the information that accreditors would need. You'll find in file cabinets, you find them like on people's Canvas shells and all those things. And so it is the best way is to have an organized type of area to put all these things into it. So Trajexis has really helped us in that type of component to where as we get closer to our accreditation, this is where we're going to put all our information for all 5 standards into that. It keeps door open for accreditors to be able to see anything. I know for us working in a community college in the state of Louisiana that we've had some restrictions towards what accreditors could be able to see if we just showed them our work on our Canvas shells. So this doesn't have to have them worry about how we get them temporary access and make them a student. And it has all the information we need right there in front of them. So I think it's been a big benefit for us. And of course, any transition, it takes time and patience and teaching as well too. But as I would say, we have a person that we communicate with if we have any type of technical issues or understanding of where the file should go or how does the faculty get this information. They're readily available for us as well too.
Great, thanks, James. So when you think about prior to Trajexis and going through all those accreditation visits, where did you feel like you had the most uncertainty, like as far as demonstrating your program's compliance and progress? So when you think about that data, what was the most stressful area?
I think it was just keeping track of everything. When you're in the role that I have and you give in your faculty autonomy, is everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing? And you could probably handle it okay with the faculty or 4 to 5, but when your faculty numbers get into the 20s, the 50s or 60s, it's kind of hard. So and where people are putting things as well. So it's just important to have it into like one area where you as an administrator can be able to check on things and make sure we're in, direct compliance when we need to. And if not, then, making sure we get things handled the right way too.
Mhm.
Yes, and it really spoke to me when you mentioned, pulling things from Canvas and a filing cabinet and all these different places. And that's something we hear from a lot of programs, and that I experienced myself when I went through accreditation, was that having Trajexis hold all that data, it really secures your program for the future too, because somebody can't walk off with some of your accreditation data. You know it's secure, you know it's there when you need it, and it can make you feel confident about your program and your progress. So, Daisy, did you have something to add? I saw you popped up. Did you have no?
No, I agree. I definitely agree. Having everything in one place has been the best. Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, Brian.
So we have our first poll that we shared today, which was what system does your program currently use to track clinical documentation? And it's almost an even distribution. That's pretty surprising. Well, how does this compare to what you guys may have observed in your states or in your region?
I think, personally, it's what is presented to you at that moment. Like if you're starting a new program, I don't know if you know what's the right direction to go until somebody says, okay, we have this system for you. Or if you're creating a program as part of a college or university system, this is what they've been used to. And so this is what you need to be able to do. And that's what's been a little bit of our challenge for us is that with the RN program, we're different. So we have accreditation standards that goes beyond just SACS. We have things that need to be, not in file cabinets that need to be in electronic records. And, so what you were doing for other programs will not work for us. And so that's, I think, is a challenge, for anybody. And then, or you get to the fact that people go, well, it's worked this way all along. So we're going to keep going this way. And you're looking at it going, I don't know if that's the best direction to go or the best program that we need to be able to use. I mean, I would say for us right now, one of my colleagues is actually on, is that we had things in OneDrive, we had things in the SharePoint, we have things that are still in our Canvas, shell as well. But eventually we have started to move things into one area, and we will continue to, so that it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's safe. That other people's information cannot be hacked. That we trust Ajaxis with that aspect as well too.
Great. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next topic area. So across the programs that we work with, it's rarely just one thing that's really broken. It's the lack of visibility when information lives in all those places we were discussing. And that's really where the things slow down, right? Because you're taking too much time finding things. You're digging things out of filing cabinets. So Daisy, before Trajexis, what parts of your process were taking the most time or causing the most frustration for your team? Was that with accreditation? Was that with daily tasks? What was the real holdup in your process?
Yeah, I would say the biggest area we had would be at the end of the semester when a student is supposed to move to the next course and we couldn't find where their paperwork was. And it was, again, making the phone calls, finding out who had the paperwork, who had them last. And then, and some of our adjunct faculty work night shift and they're trying to figure out a way to get the documents back to our facility. And at a time that is okay for them. So it would be, kind of that telephone game of calling and then leaving a message and then calling back and leaving another message and then having them, maybe email us of, okay, this is when I can meet up with somebody to give them back. It led to, again, a lot of that frustration. And when students need some of that data, because we had one hard copy that was the instructor's copy, and if that got lost, it meant that we didn't have anything to share with the student. We had to start over. And then you wonder, where is it at? Where is that information sitting? And it got to be a little frustrating that's where's the student's stuff? Is it in somebody's car? Is it in somebody's desk? Is it at their desk at home? Is it in a work bag? So it left these unknowns, and it really got to be that uncomfortable, like, if I was a student, I would want my information protected. And so with using what we're using, that it helps, we know where it's at. And what I really like is that if a student wants to pull some of the data, they can do it themselves. They don't have to rely on us for looking at what is, what kind of skills did I log, and how many hours have I done, because it's all recorded. And yeah, so the change has been really good for us as far as keeping us organized, keeping our students organized, doing those daily check-ins. I can do a check-in at any time and see, okay, how many skills are these students doing in a clinical setting, because they're logging all of those. And actually last night I happened to look at some historical data of how many times students have logged a particular skill in our system. And it helps us to kind of figure out, are we training them at a right point of time where they're capturing the experience? So it's just having that electronic system to make it visible for us and the student all the time. We don't have to rely on anybody else. No phone calls necessary with this. We can just log in, take a look, run a report, and the students can run their own report and share it with whoever they want to, which is fantastic when somebody wants to apply for an internship or an externship, that they're not relying on anything from the school. They're saying, this is what has been recorded and who's checked it off, which makes it much more efficient.
Absolutely. I can agree with everything you just said there. And when I think about that, I think about, before Trajexis, because I also went through a Trajexis implementation with my program. And before Trajexis, our students always had trouble knowing where they were at. They didn't know, how close am I to finishing these things? What have I done? What haven't I done? Did I pass? Did I not? So, having that visibility into that real time feedback, not just impacting, I know where I stand, but also impacting, the feedback that I receive. I want to improve as a student, right? I want to get better. If I don't get feedback for a month while I'm waiting for a paper, like you said, like you're waiting, or for a grade to get inputted, it really does cause a hiccup in that student learning process. So fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. I'm going to switch over to James next. So James, when you think about managing multiple cohorts, multiple sites, like you have campuses, what becomes the hardest thing to keep a clear handle on without a coordinated system in place?
I think it's clinical records to me. I think that we have done a good job of managing clinical sites in a way of that we try to every week to go to every clinical site and check on our faculty and our students as well. But if you weren't able to do that, Trajexis does offer, the opportunity to clock in and clock out, so you can at least see if the students have been at that campus site or not. But that's valuable to us for a few reasons. One is if we have community projects they do, and so there's more of a independent learning time. We can be able to do that and be able to kind of monitor to make sure the students weren't, fibbing around. But two, it's questions if you were in my role and there was concerns about students not being in clinical the entire time. Those time records kind of could tell me a story as well too. As I mentioned before, with like clinical records of documentation each week and how grading it's happening as well too. It's good to have a site that I could just be able to pull it all up and be able to evaluate and look at things, and I could pull up, one of my colleagues who's teaching the same course and see how that person's grading compared to another faculty member as well in the same exact course, and trying to see if there's anything that's comparable, or are we really out of, the zone that we should be at too. So there, it is, I would say prior to that, it is, as I mentioned before, difficult to monitor every single record possible that your faculty are doing. And this at least gives us an easier opportunity to kind of keep check on what's kind of going on in your program as well.
Great. And yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. And when you think about, your students evolving, like the changing landscape of education and the student population, they want to see that. And you, as educators and as program leaders, want to have that insight into your program so you can speak, to your constituents, so you can speak to your advisory boards, to your colleagues, and understand truly, what is happening in my program. I know because I can see it. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I'm going to pass it over to Brian. I think we got our next poll results in.
Yes, so our next question was, how difficult is it for your program to locate clinical documentation when needed? This poll was definitely a little more definitive, with about 64% saying very difficult or somewhat difficult to locate that documentation, and 26% saying somewhat easy, and only 11% saying very easy. And I'll take a screenshot of this in case you can't see the results.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you. So anything surprising to either of you at those poll results when you think about, previous to Trajexis? Are you relating to that question? Is it bringing back some memories?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. It was, I empathize with the people that it said somewhat difficult or extremely difficult. You don't realize how much information you want when until you really are like, oh gosh, I need to know this, and then you're trying to locate it. And when you have multiple cohorts of students and at different institutions with lots of faculty, it is very challenging. And James was sharing some of that. It's not too bad. A paper trail isn't too bad when you have just a few people, but when you have an entire group that's working with the students and they all have different record keeping habits, it makes it a little bit more challenging. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So let's take a little shift here and let's talk about what changed once you implemented Trajexis. So we're now using Trajexis. We moved to the centralized approach. So when you think about the big picture, what are the largest improvements after you launched Trajexis? And whether that was, visibility into progress or coordination across faculty, kind of thinking about, Daisy, what that means to you in your program now.
Yeah, so we have, I would say the biggest change has been for us to be able to keep more accurate data of where the students are and where they're at in their learning. Prior to that, we didn't necessarily know exactly where each student was standing unless the adjunct faculty had communicated back to the lead faculty. Now, our lead faculty can log in and see where the status of a student is at any time. How did they give the feedback? And we do a lot of our record keeping right in here. We do some of our clinical documentation is in there based on some of our courses. James mentioned the geocaching GPS that we know when they are clocking in and clocking out, so we know that our students are getting their full clinical time. We know that the students, all the skills that they're doing. We know gosh, we know everything that they're doing within that clinical setting without breaking any HIPAA. And it has made things run much more smoothly, and us to really follow the success of students and where there are spots that we need to kind of make a little more wrapping around some services on that student to help make sure that they are successful. And the other thing that we have in here is our performance improvement plans with a student, where if they're not doing well, the communication is done electronically. So it has just been very helpful for us to be able to put so much into this system and really make it what we wanted it to be, and dream big and ask, can this happen? This is what we're looking for. Can we make it happen? And it has made things much more easy, you know.
Thanks, Daisy. And yes, you bring up a lot of good points of, besides just knowing, the daily things that are happening, Trajexis can house all of those clinical evaluations, remediation plans, skills checklists, handbook sign-offs, even affiliate agreement tracking. So, the possibilities are kind of endless, like she said. Because it is customizable, it can be, molded to exactly what you're looking for. All right. And then James, when you think about your transition, how did this look at North Shore Tech? What became easier to monitor or report? Was there anything particularly that stood out to you with your cohorts, faculty, or clinical sites?
Yeah, I think that for one, why we do our clinical evaluations through Trajexis is because it has helped us with our Likert scale grading. It cannot be done the way we wanted under Canvas. So that was the first thing, that mathematically it computes it. The other thing is it helps us as we've started to continue with our program is to have a better understanding of our student learning objectives or outcomes, as well as is there a correlation of our program learning and what do we need to change with that too. And so that's been a big help for us. The third thing I could think of is that we saw a difference in grading between our full-time and our adjunct faculty. And so that was something of a concern in a way too. So we then built up our own type of adjunct program to where we had education on that. And also with our new faculty who are coming in to go like what our expectations are for grading and what to look for. And I said that no one should be getting a 4 out of 4 and clinical judgment and everything when they're like sophomores, right? I mean, those are not easy to obtain, right? And then we also have been able to evaluate things with, as I said, if they get below level 2, a score of 2, then they have to give feedback. So that helps the student understand if they're not doing what we think is average. It forces that faculty to be able to give the feedback that they really need to give as well too. So, and all in all, we look at both sides, faculty and the student perspectives, but it's been, if we can get on the same page, I think this has been kind of beneficial for us to kind of really see the data like Daisy was talking about and see, what can we do better as a program as well too. So we don't just think about accreditation. We think about our students all the time too. And so how can we help them out the most?
Great. Yes, thanks for sharing that. And another thing I did want to pull up while we're kind of on this topic is thinking about data integrity. I know as a former program leader, I got papers in that, you had to question, is the student transporting an evaluation that they completed, wondering if this feedback you're receiving is truly accurate. And that was something that, was significantly enhanced when we used Trajexis. Completely opposite spectrum there. So yes, thanks for bringing that up. So at a high level, we've really been talking about, moving from these fragmented systems to a more centralized approach. And this really shifts programs from that reactive thinking and tracking to having more proactive visibility, because you do have that insight to what's happening. And that becomes especially important when we're thinking about accreditations, when you're preparing for those site visits. So let's talk a little bit about what that actually looks like during your reviews and your site visits. So James, when you're thinking about accreditation, and you're in the thick of it now, when the accreditors come in, what do they actually expect to see in practice?
Improvement is one. Faculty involvement in the improvement process is two. And how do you prove that? So how do you show that? So We have our meetings, and so you have your meeting minutes, and it discusses those things. We have in the evaluation tools, and then have we looked at those evaluation tools, and what have we done with that from our student feedback, from our faculty feedback as well. For those who are non-new programs, we know they're looking at things for like the last 3 years, and for us, from the beginning. And so, and it doesn't matter what it is, they are looking for signs of like faculty involvement, student involvement as well, into this process to make your program better as well too. So, and they're not looking for 3 years of data; they're looking for data, like show me examples of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, right? And so it doesn't look good when you have to go, give me a second. Let me go find it over here. Let me go find it over here. They lay out what they want before they get here, and your job is to be able to have it found to where they don't have to go that far, or they don't have to call you that much. And so I think that's a big component. So again, having a program like this that where we could place it, put it down, show evidence of things, use that evidence from evaluation, and then show it through our curriculum meeting minutes, our faculty organization meeting minutes, and then what do we do from that? It's one thing looking at it, it's another thing of actually acting and doing something about it. And it is a hard process for accreditation. It's nerve-wracking. I know all my colleagues that I work with right now, I said, I'm sure you're going to probably hate those after March, 2027 who come into our team because they've never experienced what you guys have experienced the last few years, but it's worthwhile, I think, at the end of it too. So that's my best thing. Would be my fourth accreditation, and so I don't think I've seen too much change with the accreditors coming in. They just don't want to like look for all over the place for stuff. They just want to see the evidence. They want to see improvement in courses. They want to know how this course improved or how the curriculum improved or did it change and why. So it's one thing, say we changed it because we felt like it. Well, they don't want that. They want to have evidence-based practice or some sense of evidence that shows, hey, this is why we did it. And the best way I think is through data we have, for us at least, through our clinical as well too.
And also, when you're thinking about pulling that data for those accreditation visits, in Trajexis, you are able to run very custom reports. So you can get very specific data to pull and provide to the accreditors. And also with the SPE tracker, Systematic Plan for Evaluation tracker, that allows you to house all of your accreditation standards in Trajexis, attach your documentation, assign faculty, and it comes with an audit trail, so you don't have to think about when did that happen, what did we do, what did we talk about in that meeting. Everything becomes centralized in Trajexis. So when, if the Board of Nursing shows up tomorrow, you're ready. You have it there, you're ready to go, you feel secure, you feel confident. So thinking even broader about, the benefits of utilizing Trajexis, but specifically around student achievement, and graduation progress. So Daisy, have you seen a difference in how quickly your faculty can identify learning gaps or competency issues now that everything is more clearly documented?
Absolutely. It has been, as I mentioned earlier, wonderful that because it's that real-time tracking, you go in, you look at what the clinical faculty have documented, and we just have a better handle on what's going on all the time. With a lot of students, sometimes it can get meshed together. And for this, we can pull up by a clinical site. We can see if there is, maybe a skill issue or any kind of, maybe they're not on time at that facility, or maybe we're having some difficulty with the experience overall. We can follow that and keep track of all of it right within our system. And if I want to look at it on the weekends, I don't have to go to on campus and look at a paper document or be logged into a particular system in order to get the data. It is way easier that I can just sign into my Trajexis account and see how the students are doing. I find it the information is so accessible that it makes my job a lot easier to make sure that our students are moving in the right direction. I have to say, I love seeing some of these questions that are in the chat, and I'm getting super excited about them.
Yes, we're definitely going to get to those questions. Just to share a little bit of our poll results from the last question, how prepared would you feel if an accreditation site visit occurred tomorrow? I think there's a few ways to interpret this data. One is, it's good that, over 60, around 64% feel very prepared or somewhat prepared. Alternatively, only 20% feel very prepared. And so I think, our goal is to see that increase. And I am very grateful that nobody selected what is an accreditation site visit. You'd be surprised.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Let's see. So, let's see. Let's think about I know we have a lot of questions, so I do want to kind of move us
Yeah.
along a little bit. So, kind of to wrap this up, based on your experience, this is kind of to both of you. Based on your experience using Trajexis, what would you tell programs that are currently still using these, fragmented systems, spreadsheets, and paper? Kind of what's your advice to them?
I think you need to find if allotted by your program, something that's going to help the program to improve. And if you're still going into an age where everything is into a file folder or it's in a desk or something like that, it's inevitable that things are going to get lost. And also think about, will the person I'm working with right now be there tomorrow? Will that director that's here today be there tomorrow? So, and then you start asking the questions of like, where's all this stuff? That's what happened to me. Not my current job, but my other, former job as the succession that happened. The person was supposed to be there for a while, and then she left within a month. And so we were like, where's some of these things at? So having a database that exists where you don't need to ask all the questions, it's just there, or somebody else knows who's your representative because that person has been speaking with them. It's beneficial as well too. And I know the feeling because I had to go through it previously where it was as we got closer to accreditation, like where's the stuff from 2018? Where's the stuff from 2020? I mean, those questions are real and you shouldn't have a panic attack over it. So, and again, I know things cost money and I know there's some questions and, for us, our students get charged for Trajexis as well because it's a big database, but we pay a fee too. And but it's good for us because we have a portal that allows information to be held in one place so where we're not having all these other questions.
I would like to say that even though there is a cost associated with this product, I feel the cost is minimal comparatively to what the time or what time you spend and paper that you print and the inconsistency and the gaps, the time gaps that occur when there's missing documents. It's minimal. So I do feel that and the accuracy, that's another thing. Accuracy of the information is so important. And so it's very cost effective.
Thanks, Daisy. All right, Brian, do we want to move to questions?
Well, I think that does provide us a nice segue into some questions. We have a few people who are asking about cost as well as some questions about, well, what does this actually look like? And I understand, there is some customization for each client, so it won't look the same necessarily for every client. But I didn't know, George, if there's anything you might be able to share about that, and then we can get into some of these more specific system level questions.
Yes, so we are very transparent with pricing, so you can actually find our pricing right on our website. So it is not hidden behind a door somewhere. It is right on our website at trajexis.com. there's a little info tab you can scroll down to pricing. But in transparency, since we're all here mostly in ADN programs, typically the ADN programs access Trajexis for 12 to 27 months. So it is a little over 2 years of access for $150 per student. So it is a student fee, but it doesn't have to be paid by the students. And then as far as that, that's it. So there's no contracts, there's no licensing fees, there's no cost to your administration or your faculty or your adjuncts or your clinical staff. It's literally the only fee. So it is a very simple pricing structure, and that was built by our founder to be very simple and easy to understand. So, and also with Odin, since we are strategic partners, we do offer an Odin discount as well for Odin programs. So that's another great feature that we can talk about as well. As far as viewing the platform, yes, it is customized to you. I would be honored to meet with every one of you and show you the platform. I will give you some contact information at the end so we can get together and take a look.
Thanks, Georgia. I know for some of the larger programs who are using Trajexis, that small $5 per student discount that you receive as an Odin program member more than covers the cost of their Odin program membership annually.
Correct. Yes.
Let's see. We have some questions. This is something I'm not as familiar with, is the SIS system. There are a few questions about that.
Okay, yep. So we are currently in the quality kind of control of a Canvas integration. So it is going through, testing currently. It is planned to launch very soon. As far as Anthology, we are part of Portico now, so we have a lot of integrations that run through Portico as well. And they're our partner company. And they definitely have a lot more information about the Anthology integration, but I do not, unfortunately. But I'm happy to gather some more information about that for you. But Canvas, yes, coming this year.
Time to implementation is another question that we're seeing. And
That's a
maybe
great
Nathan and
question.
James have some insight into that as well.
Yes. Would you all like to speak about that?
Yeah, I will say it was a very short turnaround. You would be surprised from the time that we had our initial conversation with our customer service person, and we were able to dream big. These were all the things that we were thinking, and we felt bad sending all of the files that we needed created and uploaded. And it was really short. I don't know if I should give a time frame to set a crazy expectation, but it was like less than 2 weeks. It was so fast that we just were like, this is what we would like. And then it was, okay, let's meet. Does this look like what you're imagining? And then, well, could you change this? Could you do this? And it was such a back and forth collaborative process that it wasn't a painful process to go through, and we were able to really create everything that we wanted, and we can continue to create more. It is just sending a request forward, and this is what we would like implemented. And it is a short turnaround of having it created in a template that you can review and say, yes, I think this is good, or no, let's hold back, let's make these adjustments. And then when it's ready, it's click of a button and it's implemented. So it's fantastic, and it does not take very long at all.
Yeah, I just would share with Daisy said I was not involved in the initial process of with Trajexis with our School of Nursing. It was there when I arrived. But I was involved with all his conversations when we thought about accreditation and where to put things as well. It was a very easy phone call, and it was set up a meeting with you, and then we developed all these different shelves right at the moment, right there too. I think the hard part might only be making sure all the faculty are aware of all these and where to go, and sometimes there are restrictions, because it's meant for like someone like myself to be able to look over, and they don't want to give access to every single faculty member to touch some of these files. So, but it is it's not like you're waiting on a weeks or 2 weeks to get an answer or something. So I think the initial thought process was just about cost, for our students being part of a community college and having majority of our student population to pay out of pocket. We do not want to charge a student for something that they will never use or never, or barely use. So we know this system is something they're going to use for all 4 semesters they're with us. So.
Any other questions, Brian?
There's a specific question for Daisy. Which SIS do you use?
You're muted.
Are they asking about what LMS platform? Is that what?
Oh, they're talking about SIS. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
SIS.
So that is
Student
the
information system.
No, that's
very
like the
good.
student information system. Yeah.
Okay. So our LMS platform is through Brightspace. So we use Desire to Learn, but we have another system that we use that is colleague or through Ellucian that contains our other student information. But the students just log into Trajexis. All of our clinical sites allow the students to go to that website, and it isn't blocked. You can do a smart link within any LMS system that links out to a website, but this is an actual website that they go to. It's not an app, it's a website. And so the clinical sites, if it is blocked for any reason, you just let the clinical site know that this is the place that students are going to check in, but there isn't any, we have not had any issues with it. And we even have some institutions, clinical sites that do not allow our students to take their phones in. So the students will go into the building, they all log into Trajexis, and then they clock in. And then at post-conference, they will, again, make sure that everything is input into the system as far as all the skills that they've done. They can log them when they get home, but typically they try to do it in real time, that just like they would do if they were recording in a patient chart. It becomes part of their charting that they're documenting on themselves.
Thanks, Daisy. So Georgia, would it be pertinent to share any kind of screenshot or maybe an example of a report? We have a lot of visual learners, I think, in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, so let me share my screen. One second, sorry guys.
We also have Ron Bright in the chat from Trajexis, and Ron is able to answer a lot of technical questions you might have. I know he noted that there are no dependencies for using Trajexis, so in other words, no tech stacks. You don't need to buy or have something else to integrate.
Yeah, so hopefully you can see my screen here. So I just put a couple screenshots in a PowerPoint to give you a little visual. So as far as proof of documentation for program oversight, we do have a customizable skill area where we can upload and create a listing of all of the skills and competencies in your program. We also will, upload all of your clinical sites and lab sites. There we go. This visual you're seeing here is actually the SPE tracker. So what that does is we can have your standard summary listed here, all your documentation attached to that standard, your ELA, your meeting notes, and then over here, I know it's a little hard to see on here, but we can set your review deadline for each standard. You can assign faculty to each standard, And then we have a red light, green light system. So green light pass, red light fail. So you can kind of see that tracker, which is customizable for every program. And here's the audit trail example. So when you use the SPE tracker, it's going to keep track of everything, as I was mentioning earlier. So you can see the exact date and time that any change was made within the system, right at your fingertips. We even have had some programs actually give, ASIN, their ASIN site visitor, a guest login so they can preview the tracker on their own. And that saves some time off of that accreditation site visit because they can do that, background work before they arrive. And then those are kind of the visuals that I had to show you of the system, but I would love to give you a full, overview of the platform on your own time when you get a chance.
Well, I think we just have one last question.
Okay.
How are schedules created so that students and faculty know which facilities to go to and which skills have been completed?
Sorry, could you repeat the end of that question?
How
I
are
didn't.
schedules created so that students and faculty know which facilities to go to and which skills have been completed?
Okay. So we do have a clinical placement tracker built into Trajexis that allows you to assign your students to their clinical locations, and it appears as a calendar. So in the student login, they can pull up their calendar, they can see where they're scheduled each day, what shift they have. We even have the ability to do self-assigning or makeup time assigning. So they can go in, maybe they want to sign up for some open labs that you have available. They can go right in and do that in the platform as well. So that's kind of how your students would see their schedule, and also your faculty and obviously administration as well can see it. Hopefully that answers the question.
I just want to add that the skills you give Trajexis the list of skills that you want and kind of what level that it would be. So it's like for us, we have 4 levels as an ADN program, and in first level, these are the skills that they can record in second level, third level, and fourth level. And of course, as they transition up each level, they can still record some of the lower level skills, but we want to make sure that they're capturing as many skills as possible. And then the clinical instructor, or if it's a preceptor model, you can have the preceptor that checks off and says, yes, they did do that skill and they performed it in clinical on this day and how well they performed it. And it just, again, allows you to have that clinical tracking right away and in the progress that the student is doing. They're not leaving clinical going, how did I do? The information is relayed to them and then recorded. And then if there are any concerns, then there's that follow-up that can happen.
All right, well, I think we have a little time left for just any final pearls of wisdom from yourself, Daisy, or James, and then I think we can leave everyone with some follow-up information, Georgia.
You want me to go, Daisy?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me think.
I was thinking about it too. So, look, I mean, it is. What are the downsides of it? I saw one of Kathleen's questions right there as well too. I don't know if it's a downside. I just feel like it's a program that requires education and and some type of continuous mentorship as well. But like I said, the people that our representatives that we have, they're quick, to help us out if there's questions. And trust me, I had plenty of them when I first got here, and then as a director, it's like, where is this, information? Like, where do I go? I mean, I'm not going to hide that. But talking to our representative, like, it was easy as well too. And so, but I would say if you're looking at the downside, it's just continuous education that's required. And it's like, if you have never been involved with this type of program before, it's going to require new type of faculty training as well. So like, I think that's the basis of it. It's just going to be time consuming, I guess, in a way, but it's worthwhile in the long run as well too, because, like I said before, you could put down the information you need and know where it's located at. You could track things a little bit better, in my opinion. If you had student concerns, you could be able to pull up the information, because I doubt majority of our students know what a PLO is or SLO, but we can be able to explain it that way as well. And tell them this is where the struggle is at, in real time, not have to wait, until I see you again, like in a week as well too. And I think, at least for my faculty, they're very, very good at that part as well too. And so, my words of wisdom is to not to be afraid of change if the change is going to be beneficial for your program as well too. So look at the pros and cons of it, and figure out, is this the best for our program? Can we be able to take this on? Can our students be able to afford it? Again, it's $150 for like 24 months, and I think it's $50 every 6 months after that. So it is affordable to the student as well too, and they even could break it down into semester payments if that's the way you want to do it as well too. So think about it that way. I mean, I'm sure, like, even my position, people are throwing a lot of different programs at you, and you're trying to figure out what's the best for our institution. So I'm glad everybody is here. You're taking the time, your due diligence, to look at this product and figure out, from listening to Daisy, myself, Georgia, and Brian, is this worthwhile? And Ron, who's actually on as well too. So
I would like to say take that opportunity to do it. You can really dream big on this product and make it easier for yourself and for the students. The learning curve is often with the faculty, not with the student population. They're usually pretty catchy on getting all their information in, just like electronic charting. It's a very similar system, and you have to learn where things are at in order to make sure that you're documenting in the right place. That's no different than this. And I saw the question about what kind of how much time do you dedicate to ongoing conversation or education about this? We talk about it for probably 3-4 minutes in our nursing meeting on a monthly basis and do a check-in. Hey, is everybody doing their, check-in times, and have we cleared everything out? And like it is just often a reminder. If somebody's struggling, they'll go through training sessions again. There's always somebody available to help the person get through that difficulty.
Thanks, Daisy. Thanks, James. Yeah, so as we wrap up today, I did want to go ahead and share my contact information that you see on the screen here. You can email me, georgia@trajexis.com. That QR code you see is actually going to take you to an information request. If you would like to, sit down for a demo with me, I'd be happy to meet with you. But hopefully today you saw how, a couple programs have transitioned out of those, kind of chopped up data systems and really moved to a more centralized and clear system with Trajexis. And really our goal is to give you that real-time insight, to let you be able to have visibility into things that are happening instead of having these panic reactions when things do go wrong. And Trajexis was designed to support your programs in just that way, bringing everything together in one place so it's actually usable when you need it the most. Like I said, I'd love to speak with you. Information is there. And I really appreciate everybody for taking the time to listen today.
Thanks, Georgia. Yes, thank you all for joining us, and a special thank you to Daisy and James and Georgia too for leading us in today's conversation. And we'll see you on the next webinar.
Bye.